Welcome to Digital Learning, an initiative of Directorate of Collegiate Education, Government of Karnataka. Learning from first generation school goers, an essay by Dr. R. Balasubramaniam, is prescribed for third semester General English BCom affiliated to Bengaluru North University. So, in this session, we'll introduce ourselves to the author and also the lesson. I am Nandana NG, Assistant Professor of English, Government First Grade College, Bagepalli. Let us have a look at the contents of the session. First and foremost, we shall start with the recapitulation of previous knowledge. Knowledge here refers to all that we are aware of. At times, we will be aware of certain things, but then we will not be clear as to what is it that we know. So, any knowledge that we are aware of or any information for that matter that we are aware of becomes knowledge. So, at the very beginning, at the very outset, we should always try to assess how much of previous knowledge or previous information that we are aware of, so that it can serve as a bridge for further understanding of the knowledge through the course of this session. Next, we shall proceed towards the learning objectives. Learning objectives are certain rules or aims which a student can look forward of achieving through the course of the session. Session outcome is what the learning objectives promises to complete. So, the student by the end of the session can look forward to the certain learning objectives to have been completed. And then we shall proceed to the introduction of the lesson and introduction of author, later followed by a small multiple choice question answer session to assess how much of knowledge we have gained through the course of this session. Recap of previous knowledge. A few questions are provided here. Discussion of these questions in the classroom will throw open a multitude of answers because most of the students are from diverse backgrounds. Every student will be aware of certain things which the other might not be aware of. At times, certain students even surprise me for that matter. I usually, whenever I ask certain questions, I am surprised by the answers that come forth in the classroom. So, we shall start with these questions. All the questions are pertaining to the theme of the lesson. So, the discussion of this is very important. First question, have you addressed any social problem? First, we have to try to define what is meant by a social problem. Social problem can be defined as the problems that plague a society or problems that are prevalent in society. So, in that context, a student, when he or she is asked the question if they have ever addressed any social problem, they usually come up with the various social problems that they are aware of. The usual social problems that students come up with are the dowry system, illiteracy, unemployment, child marriage, child labor, etc. So, at times a student does agree that yes, that they have addressed a social problem whenever they have felt that something wrong is being happening or some injustice is happening, they have addressed the problem. Second question, have you visited any NGO? NGO stands for non-government organization. NGOs are non-profit, non-government organizations usually dedicated to certain social causes. Not necessarily that students should be aware of NGO, but yes, a minuscule amount of students might be familiar with NGOs. Many number of NGOs are there. The causes might vary, but NGOs do serve a purpose. They are not government organizations. They are usually organizations started by individuals with social concerns, and they voluntarily act out of concern to eradicate a social problem. The next question, have you helped any needy person? Again, it depends on what defines as a need. If a person is begging and if you provide him some money, you might feel that you have satisfied the need of the person. But the money that you have put in the bowl of that beggar, was it the need of the person or was it something else the need? Maybe the person at that point needs to be rehabilitated. Maybe that was the most important need. But then again, as I say, it depends on the needs of the person. Next question. Have you ever tried finding a solution to any of the social problems that you have come across? Well, yes, at times there are certain situations where we try to find solution, but then whether it is implemented or not, that again is another scenario there. Yes, there are situations where social problems are prevalent, and yes, I have tried to find a solution, but once or twice I have been successful, but not always. Share an incident where you have helped the needy. When I ask this question in the classroom, usually students come up with a few incidents where they have helped the needy. And whenever a student comes across, or whenever a student expresses an incident where he has helped the needy, I as a teacher, I do feel good, because to see a young mind having that urge to help others in society, it actually makes a teacher feel happy. Next, be a change to see the change. Discuss. This actually is a proverb or a saying which all of us should keep in mind. Always the general consensus in society is that the government isn't doing much. Always the cribbing attitude, the way people keep grumbling, the government isn't doing much, nothing is being done, etc. I'm reminded of a quotation by Abraham Lincoln, who says, don't ask what the country has done for you, ask yourself what have you done for the country. Instead of cribbing, instead of waiting for the change to happen, if we begin the change, maybe the change will start from us, and it might spread everywhere. Why should we always wait for things to change? Why can't we initiate the change for once? Here I would like to just give an example of a youth movement called Youth for Parivartan. Youth for Parivartan is a group of youngsters who go about cleaning places which are usually so full of filth, garbage and rubbish that even the BBMP at times refuses to clean. So at such certain points, these youngsters who come from various strata of society, they come together and they clean the place and make sure that it is fit for societal use once again. So I think instead of waiting for the change to happen, we should initiate the change. The last question is the most important question pertaining to the lesson. Can you differentiate education and schooling by life experiences? If I have to define or differentiate between the two words education and schooling, this is how I would explain. Schooling refers to the formative years of an individual when he goes to the school, and education is what he gains throughout the course of his lifetime. But then again, the formal years of education, that is from primary, from pre Montessori, primary, high school, PUC, degree, only these many years do not constitute of his years of schooling or education. The way I look at things, the home or the house is our first school, and mother is the first teacher. Every person for that matter learns quite a few things from his or her mother, or usually parents for that matter. So certain things that we learn from the mother or father will be continued further when you go to the school. Learning objectives of this session. What is it? What are the objectives of this session? The session intends to develop sensitivity towards social problems and concerns towards society. After the reading of the lesson, the student usually will develop some sort of sensitivity towards the social problems that are prevalent. The student also will debate on the contemporary education system. He can also ascertain the importance of nurturing nature. This is a very, very important objective. Without nature, mankind will perish. Through the course of this lesson, there is one particular incident wherein we get to realize how nature is very, very important for the survival of human beings, and also in turn assimilate or gather the value of human relationships. Again, one incident in particular throws light on the value of human relationships. The session outcomes. At the end of the session, the students are able to enrich their cultural and literary sensibilities and foster cross-cultural understanding. Yes, by the end of the session, the students will be sensitized towards the cross-cultural issues that are prevalent. He will also be able to acquire maturity to critically analyze the importance of education and schooling by life. All of this in turn will enhance his vocabulary, word power, and also strengthen his linguistic skills. Dr. R. Balasubramaniam, the author of this lesson, a picture of his is provided here. He was born on 4th May 1965 in Saragur near Mysore. By profession, he is a medical doctor. This actually is a surprising aspect. Unlike the conventional writers, he is a doctor by profession. Along with it, he is also a development scholar, author, public policy advocate, a leadership trainer, and activist. At the age of 19, he in fact started a movement inspired by Swami Vivekananda that is given further later. He was also known for his pioneering development work with the rural and tribal people in Saragur. He is also the founder of Swami Vivekananda Youth Movement SVYM and GRAAM, grassroots level movement. The present essay, the essay that we are going to deal in detail, is an extract from his book I the Citizen. Observe the title, I the Citizen. I usually is in capitals, but here I is in the small font, which means to say every citizen is a part of society. There is no need to emphasize yourself as I with a capital. We are a part of the society. Inspired by the message of Swami Vivekananda, he sees his life's mission as building a resurgent India by inspiring leadership in the youth of the country. The thing that struck me while starting with the lesson or doing the introduction of the author was, though a medical doctor by profession, yet he has that concern towards society. As a result, he has tried to build a school for the tribal children in Saragur, and all his efforts, how he started with the school and what were all the difficulties that he had to face and how did he overcome all the obstacles are given in the book I the Citizen. Only a part of it, the beginning of his ordeal is only given here. So an attempt to understand citizen development and engagement. The author makes a definite attempt. He tries to understand how development should be there at all levels. Development does not necessarily mean that only cities and towns should be developed. Even the people living in the villages and in the tribal areas, they too deserve development. The Indian government has to see to it that development is everywhere. It is not lopsided, and engagement of the people, including the village and the tribal people in development work should be there. A development initiatives at the grassroots level. The school started by the author can be considered as an initiative which he started at the grassroots level. He actually went to the place, did a lot of study, and when he realized that the children of the tribals were being left out of the mainstream education, he made up his mind that it was his endeavor in life to make sure that these people were assimilated in the mainstream so that they too get the education that the others are getting. An introduction of what good governance means to ordinary people. Through the course of his school, he wanted to show how good governance also is available to ordinary people. His establishing the school can be considered as a milestone to draw an attention to the on-ground experience. Yes, theoretically, while speaking, on paper, establishing an organization, establishing a school sounds very easy. But when you actually get down to the grassroots level, you understand all the difficulties associated with it. For example, our author, when he decided to start a school, he realized he did not have any experience of leading a school or of any experience of managing a school. But yet, a few like-minded individuals like him came together and they started a school. Only when they started from the grassroots level, he realized all the difficulties associated with it. Education versus schooling through the anecdotes. Through the course of the lesson, the difference between education and schooling can be clearly seen. How education is mere accumulation of knowledge, or in fact it is just the formative or the conventional degree that happens, while schooling is what we also learn not only in the regular classroom but also with the interaction with family and nature. And also, schooling should not interfere with inherent education. Yes, education is important. The conventional degrees are important, but likewise, whatever we learn outside the classroom, that too is important. Now let us try to recapitulate what we have learned through the course of this session. The present essay is an extract from his book I, the Citizen. It is a development initiative at the grassroots level. The author's endeavor to start a school for tribal children can be considered as a great development initiative which he began at the grassroots level. Through the course of the lesson, he narrates the introduction of the school in tribal community. The idea seems a very simple one. Starting a school and asking all the tribal people to send their children to school. It's not as easy as it sounds. The moment the author had the idea, a few of the like-minded people came together. They had to go to the tribal people and convince them to send their children to school, which itself took a lot of time. And once the children came to school, sustaining the interest of the children within the school, that too was a difficulty that they had to face, that he explains through the course of the lesson. And education versus schooling through various anecdotes. There are two primary incidents in the course of the lesson that shows how education versus schooling, or the differences between education and schooling. Multiple choice question. Let us just try to assess ourselves through these multiple choice question. First question, the present essay is an extract from his book. The options provided are I, the Citizen, Swami Vivekananda as I see him, Hosa Kanasu, or none of the above. And by now we are familiar with the answer. The present essay is an extract from his book. Answer A, I, the Citizen. Second question, the lesson is about. Options provided are citizen development, good governance, option C, on the ground experience, option C, all of the above. If you have thoroughly heard the introduction, then you will be familiar, or you will be aware that the answer for it is answer D, all of the above. The lesson actually is about citizen development, how developed or citizens who have had the privilege of development are trying to spread the development to the tribal area. It also shows good governance in the form that these educated individuals are trying to give back whatever they have learned by helping the tribal children. The on-ground experience refers to how they started the school, what were all the difficulties that they had to face while starting the school. So the answer is, the lesson is about all these aspects. The references for the session used are Thank you.